Hello CraftDee family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So CraftDee. For today's DIY projects, we will be creating some really cute farmhouse style decor pieces using some of the items that I picked up from my last Dollar Tree haul. Now, even though these pieces have a rustic finish, you can stain, paint, or decorate these any way that makes your heart happy. Now, before we start, I have to say hey to all of my subscribers, and if you're a new visitor to my channel today, I hope you consider subscribing as well and stick around to enjoy these crafts and all of those tips that I will share along the way. So now, let's just jump right into the projects. Now this project is a set of decorative plant containers. We're going to need one of these peel and stick tiles from the Dollar Tree, one roll of ribbon of your choice from the Dollar Tree. We're also going to need 2 containers, and I'm repurposing these chow mein noodle containers that I had on hand, but you can use any kind of round container that you like, and the Dollar Tree does have multiple sizes of round containers available. So I'm going to start with working with my peel and stick tile. We're going to go ahead and remove it from the package, and here is the tile all removed. Go ahead and place it face down on your work surface. Now you're going to take your round container, and what we're going to do is we're going to trace out the width of the container. So I'm laying one edge flush with the edge of the tile and marking that inside edge with a marker. Now we're going to repeat this on the other side of the tile as well, just making sure we mark the complete width of the container there as well. So now we're going to mark our lines. I'm going to go ahead and grab my ruler and my marker, and I'm just going to connect all of the lines that I just marked. Now, in order to cut our pieces apart, you can use scissors, but I'm going to opt to use my cutting blade, my utility blade, because I want this to be as straight as possible, and I want to use my ruler for this. So I'm just going to glide my blade along the line using my ruler to make sure I have a nice straight piece, and I want to do this for both of my pieces. So now you have your 2 pieces, one for each container, and then you have a scrap left, which is the smaller piece. So now flip it over, and we're going to remove that peel and stick portion because we are going to be hot gluing this to the container. The peel and stick version on this will just not work for this project. So in my mind, I was thinking that this tile would cover the entire container. Well, yeah, my mind isn't always very accurate, so I ended up having about a 1-inch gap on the container. So I had to come up with a resolution, and what I decided to do is incorporate that little strip that was left in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the strip first of all, and I'm going to divide it equally down the center. And once you cut that in half, you'll have one for each of the containers to cover up that void. Now, to make it less visible, I am matching up the pattern at the end of one of my longer strips with that piece that we cut off. And as you can see, if we line it up perfectly, we want the top edge of that tile to be the even part. And then now we can actually attach it to it. And this will add that extra inch plus a little to make the extension perfect to wrap around our container. And I'm just hot gluing those together along the edge. And then we're going to just cut off all of that excess, and I'm doing one more test fit, and yes, it does overlap about 1/4 inch, so that would work perfect for this project. So I'm going to repeat this for that second long strip, making sure that you line up those edges as well. And now our 2 strips to wrap our containers are ready to go. So now it's time to attach it. Now I'm going to start attaching it with the extension side to the container. Just put a bead of hot glue all across it and on each edge. Now you want to be careful pressing this into place. I do suggest that if you are very sensitive to hot glue, definitely use silicone fingers or other protective measures to protect your fingers, because this hot glue will burn you if you make direct contact with it. So now I'm just going to run a bead of hot glue along the top edge and along the bottom edge, edge and just start attaching this a few inches at a time, being careful to make sure that it's nice and even along the edge. Now there will be a slight overlap, and that is okay because we'll do some trimming up at the end, but you do for the most part want to make sure it's nice and evenly applied. So now that we're almost done, we're going to attach this last little piece, and we're going to add hot glue along the edges here, making sure we're careful not to overlap it, but then we just want to make sure we add a generous amount so it will stay nice and sealed at the end. And then carefully press it down onto the place. Now, since we did line up that first piece, you really can't see that seam. So the only seam that if you look really close, you'll see this seam in the back of the container, but still with the pattern, it really does blend in very well. So now it's time to go ahead and trim off all of our excess. And again, I'm going to use my utility blade for this. I'm laying the container down flat on the mat, and then I'm just going to run that utility blade along the edge of the container, just rolling the container as I cut to make sure I get the most even cut around the edge. And now that edge is nice and even, and if you have any overlap at the top, go ahead and trim that down as well. And here is one of the containers all nice and trimmed out and ready to go. And now grab your second container, and we're just going to cover that and repeat the whole process. And here are my two containers all nice and covered and ready to go. Now you can definitely use these as is. I think they are really cute this way, but I decided to add an additional trim to mine. So what I did is I grabbed a roll of ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Now this is like a natural ribbon with some lighter colored weaving in the pattern, which I thought was really cute. So I'm going to start adding this starting at the back where those pieces connect. I'm going to start adding this along the edge of the bottom of the container first, just carefully adding a little bit of hot glue along the edge and pressing it in place. Now you do want your ribbon to overlap slightly, but you also want it to fold in that raw edge. And so we're just going to fold in that raw edge, glue it in place, and then glue the entire strip right on top of that edge. And now the bottom is all trimmed out. We're going to go ahead and repeat this for the top edge, and here is what one looks like all trimmed out. I think it's super cute. And now we can repeat this for your other container. And here are both of my containers all trimmed out. Now these are ready to display. You can use these for just about anything, faux plants, greenery, or even on your desk as sorting arrangement pieces. So here it is. These are both of my containers with some faux greenery, and I think they look super cute. Now I love this new tile design at the Dollar Tree, and it looks great on these repurposed containers. Now the best thing is that you can choose any trim or tile style that you like. There's so many to choose from the Dollar Tree, and don't forget the Family Dollar as well has these for $1. Now you all have to let me know what you think of this project in the comments below. Now this project is a 3-tier tray decor piece. We're going to need a set of 3 of these box containers with the metal plate and graduated sizes from the Dollar Tree. And we're also going to need 2 pieces of wood. Now I'm just going to be using these 2 pieces of scrap wood that I had left over, and these are 1 by 2, and they're going to be cut to 5 inches along each. Now if you don't have any scrap 1 by 2, you can use a plunger handle from the Dollar Tree, and you also can use a garden stake from the Dollar General, which is $1 for this project. We're going to start off with working with our containers, and I love this natural color, but I did want to give them a little bit of a rustic finish. So I'm going to be using my white chalk paint and a chip brush that I got from the Dollar Tree to give it a dry brushed look all over the container, and I'm keeping a wet wipe handy on the side. So I'm going to start dipping my chip brush in there, and I just want to put a light coat of paint on it. Now when you do dry brushing, you just want to lightly brush that paint on. We're not trying to get complete coverage. We do want some of that natural color peeking through, and this just gives it that rustic, weathered look. Now we're going to do this all over the inside first, and then now we're going to start around the outside. You can see I'm just kind of wisping that paintbrush across there, letting some of that natural color come through. Now you can cut or remove your plates from the front if you like to. I left my plates on, and then what I'm going to do is as soon as I painted over my plates, this is where I take that wet wipe and I just wipe the paint off the plates. I just found that this was quicker than easier than unscrewing and then adding them back on and screwing the plates back on. So I'm just going to wipe them off with that wet wipe, and that's all I needed to do. And here is what the front of the tray will look like. Now once you do all of those sides, you can go ahead and just do some dry brushing on the bottom, since the bottom of these trays will definitely be exposed in this project. So here is that piece all nice and painted and dry brushed. I love how this looks. So I'm going to repeat this process with the other two containers. And so now all of my boxes are all painted, and I'm letting them sit to dry for the time. Now what you want to do is you want to grab your two support pieces, your two 5-inch pieces, whether you use the garden stake, the plunger handle, or the 1x2. We're going to go ahead and dry brush these white as well, but I did notice that since this was a lighter wood, it didn't quite match my boxes, so I'm going to have to do a little creative blending. So what I'm doing is taking some of this nutmeg brown acrylic paint and another little brush that I had with little rough bristles, and I'm dry brushing that on as well. Now that was a little lighter than I expected, so what I decided to do is mix a little bit of acrylic black paint in with that nutmeg, and this will give me a rich dark chocolate brown color, and I'm wisping some of that all over the stick. Now there's no rhyme or reason on how you apply this, you just want to apply it however you like. Now once you get a pretty decent coverage of that chocolate brown color all over your stick, you're going to go over with more of the white, and this is what blends it all in, and once it's done, it matches your boxes perfectly. So now that everything has had a chance to dry, here are all of your pieces for your project. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the bottom layer, which is the biggest box, and we'll be putting one of those support sticks in the center, then the middle piece, another supportive stick, and then the top piece. And this is the order in which we will be building our tray. Now you can definitely adhere these with wood glue if you like to. Just allow 24 to 48 hours for it to dry, and only do this if you want to use lightweight items on this, but you guys know me, I love my pieces to be super secure, so I will definitely be using screws for this project. So we're going to take the bottom piece of our tray. We need to find the center. You can definitely use a ruler, but a little quick hack that I love to use is just to take a piece of scrap paper, and then I like to outline the size of the container on the scrap paper by pressing down on it and then folding that piece into quarters. Now when you do this, you find the perfect center by cutting a little nip of the paper off in the middle, and now I know exactly where the middle of my container is, and I'm just going to mark it in the center. Now I'm going to repeat this for the other two boxes, just using that same square, making sure when you place it on there it's nice and centered, and then marking those holes the same exact way. Now that all our holes are marked, I am going to take my drill bit. I'm using a 7/64 inch drill bit, and I'm just going to drill a hole in the center of that bottom piece. Now for the little stick that will attach to it, I am going to drill again inside there. Only one side of it I'm going to drill in with that same drill bit. Now to attach with screws, I'm only going to be using the 2 screws for this. I'm using a 1.5 inch number 6 wood screw. So to attach the piece, I'm going to the bottom of the large square, and I'm just going to drill it in until about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch of the screw is poking out on the other side. And then take your piece that you drilled your hole in, go ahead and screw it on top of that piece that's sticking out, and this just gets the bond going between the screw and the box. And now you could take your drill and drill the remainder of the screw all the way in until the screw head is flush with the bottom of that large piece. And as you can see here, it's in there nice and tight, and now your piece is nice and sturdy for your base. So now we're going to work on attaching the centerpiece, and this will be done a little differently than any other one of my DIYs, since this is a 3-tier tray. You'll notice it has 2 pieces of wood sandwiching that tray, so you can't do it with regular screws. In this case, I'm going to use something called a dowel screw. If you look at the dowel screw, it has screw ends on both sides, so there's no head on this screw. Now, where I originally got this screw from was I repurposed it from one of these finials that I got from Lowe's. These have dowel screws in there, but often I take them out when I use them for my project, but I keep them just in case I have another project. Now, if you don't have one to repurpose, this is the packaging for one that I actually bought in store a while back. Now, you're not going to need this size. You're going to need a 3/16 by 2 inch dowel screw. You can see the size is a little different. So if you buy them in store, that's the size that you will want to get. So now what you want to do is grab a drill bit that is slightly smaller than your dowel screw, so we can go ahead and start drilling our pilot holes for that dowel screw. So we're going to take our bottom tray and that support, and on the top of that piece of wood, we're going to use that drill bit for our dowel screw and go down about 1 inch down into that piece. Now the next piece we want to drill with that drill bit is we want to drill in the center of that center tray. And for the other piece of wood that'll attach to the other side to sandwich it in, we're going to drill in one side of that with that same large drill bit. So now we have all 3 pieces that will be attached together with their pilot holes in place. So we're going to remove our drill bit, and now we want to put our dowel screw in there. So I'm taking my marker and marking the center. That's how far we're going to stick this into our drill. We don't want to go past that point. So I'm using that as a guide. And there's a little smooth part of that dowel screw where you could see where to make that mark. Now once it's secured into your drill, you're just going to carefully drill it in until it will not drill anymore. Then loosen up your chuck on your drill. Just unscrew it so it will release that screw, and now you see that screw is nice and embedded into the base piece. The next thing you want to do is to take your middle tray. We're going to insert the head of that screw into that pilot hole and just twist that middle tray on until it reaches all the way to the bottom. And when it gets nice and tight, you want to stop at the point where all the labels are lining up on the front. And now you have a little bit of that screw still sticking out of the top. Now this is where you'll take your other wood piece to sandwich it in, and you can hand screw this right on top. Now this is put together like you would see a tray in a retail store. So that's why I love using these dowel screws, because they are super secure and much more secure than using wood glue or hot glue. So now all we have to do is attach that top tray. Now we're going to go back to our regular drill bit, which is our 7/64 inch drill bit. And we're going to drill a hole in that last tray, and then drill a hole in the top of that piece of wood at the very top of our tray. Now to attach our tray here, we're just going to start by hand threading the screw through the inside of the tray until it goes through about 1/2 inch. Go ahead and twist it on top of your tray stand, and then you can secure the rest of the length with your drill, and there you have it. Everything is nice and secure. Now when you use screws, especially the dowel screw, you'll notice this tray isn't going anywhere. It's nice and sturdy. I'm tossing it around. This thing is nice and solid, perfect for gift giving or selling. So now all you have to do is the fun part, which is decorate. And here is my cute little tray. It's all decorated with a few of my favorite farmhouse trinkets. Now I'm really impressed on how great this piece turned out, and this reminds me of a piece that you would find like at a Hobby Lobby or some other high-end decor store. Now I really do think that the metal accents really give it that high-end look and are really the star of the show in this piece. Now you all definitely have to give this beautiful project a try. Now this project is a would-be tassel decor accessory. Now I'm going to use some of that cotton yarn that I got from the Dollar Tree on my last haul. And I'm going to be using some 20mm wood beads, and I did get these from Amazon, and I will link them in the description box below. So I'm going to start off with my cotton yarn, and I'm going to cut a double piece at about 18 inches. You can make this as long as you like, but about 18 to 20 inches is what I have my piece here. And then I'm going to take a piece of cardboard that I folded in half, and it's about 4 inches wide. When I fold it in half, it's 2 inches on each side. So what I'm going to do is take the center of my strand that I just cut, and I'm laying the center across the middle of the board and then starting to wrap that additional yarn off the skein all the way around it until I get a thickness that I'm happy with for my tassel size. Now I'm just going to cut it off, and now that's all wrapped around. I'm going to take that piece and loop it around that I just cut for my length, and then I'm going to tie it in place. Now I'm going to tie it about 2 or 3 times really tight at the top. Now once that's tied really tight, you can go ahead and remove it from your cardboard piece, and now you have a little almost looking tassel like end. So now you're going to lay it across another end of that yarn, and then we're just going to tie the end of the yarn from the skein across the top of the looped area 2 or 3 times. And then just start wrapping it around several times until you're happy with what it looks like, and then tie it around in place. Now when you tie it around in place and cut it off, I'm just tucking in that tie behind my little loops that I made. This way it's nice and hidden and looks nice and clean. Now for your looped ends, I'm going to straighten them out as much as possible with my fingers. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut them off nice and even along the end. Now you may need to make a couple cuts just to make these perfect. Just keep combing them with your fingers between them. You could use a Dollar Tree comb or pick too to help with you if you need to make this a little straighter. So once you get it all nice and cut, you could just fluff it out, and now you have one of your tassel ends at the end of your double string. So now I'm going to take my little yarn needle that I had here on hand. They also have needle sets at the Dollar Tree you could use. So I'm just going to go ahead and thread both of those pieces of string through my yarn needle and then start threading on your beads. You can add as many beads as you like. Again, this can be as long as you like, so I'm just going to add them until I have at least about 6 inches of yarn left at the very end. So here's everything all beaded onto my strand and ready to go. So now we're going to add a tassel to this end, so I'm going to remove my needle and open up my 2 strands, and I'm going to lay them in between my cardboard as shown here and kind of close it up. Now to keep those strands in place, I'm just going to tape them right on the inside with some painter's tape. Then I'm going to close that cardboard and then start again wrapping around that yarn, and this will be forming my second tassel. Now once you get enough on there, we're just going to just pinch and squeeze that cardboard together so we can get in there and remove that painter's tape, and then tie the two ends of my beaded garland around that tassel part and then remove it from the cardboard. And then we're just going to repeat the process again. We're going to take that yarn and we are just going to wrap it around near the top to secure it all in place. And then you're going to cut and tie it. And don't forget to tuck it in with your little embossing tool from the Dollar Tree. We're going to go ahead and straighten those ends, and then I'm going to take the other tassel end and sit it right next to it, because what I want to make sure is that both of my tassels are the same size. So I'm giving it one initial haircut. I line it up with the other tassel, and then I'm lining it up here, and then I'm making sure they're about the same size, and then just keep fluffing and cutting until you get the cut that you are looking for. But once you do that, that is it. Such a quick and easy project to make. And there you have it, a beautiful bead decor piece that is ready to use. Now these are so simple to make, and you save so much money making them instead of buying them. And the great thing is that you can customize them to match your own decor. Now, I had so much fun creating these projects with my Dollar Tree haul items today, and of course I do love them all, but you'll have to let me know in the comments which one is your favorite today. Listen, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. Make sure that you're following She's So CraftDee on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. If you like videos like these and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed by clicking that subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen and make sure you hit that bell to be notified when the next DIY goes live. It's absolutely free. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.